So today I wanted to do something a little different, and I wanted to make a tier list of right-wing commentators. I am a right-wing individual. I'm a libertarian-oriented person with conservative social beliefs, just so I can get my bias out of the way. And I wanted to make sure I didn't script this video. I just kind of wanted to go through and give some of my raw opinions and insights on some of these people. Just kind of wanted to work my thoughts through in real time. I've never seen anybody do one of these online, shockingly. And I consume a lot of online right wing content. I don't watch all of these people. I'm not that chronically online, but I do consume a lot of right wing content. I do consume some left wing content just to get their perspectives on things, and maybe I will make a video about them if people would like that. And I could also do a part 2 of this because there's plenty of commentators that I couldn't fit onto this crappy tier list making website. So if you guys are interested in that, definitely let me know and I will make another one. But yeah, I didn't script this video. I'm just kind of working my way through this, and even if this video like flops or whatever, I definitely would love to come back 5 years later and just see if any of my thoughts have changed and if where these commentators are at in 5 years from now. And just one final thing, some of these people on this list I watch frequently. There's some people on here who I don't watch at all, and there's some people that I'm just familiar with and have a baseline understanding of, but don't really have ever really watched. I'm not gonna lie, if there's someone who I've never really watched or listened to, I have not included them, so just keep that in mind. So without further ado, I guess it's only right that we start off with the person who gave me this idea. Who on the Extravaganza Clips channel, they did one of these. I just didn't really like how they did it. They just ranked it in 3 categories like charisma, intelligence, and debate, I think. And I didn't really like those categories, so that's why I wanted to go ahead and make one of these videos. So the first one is Andrew Wilson. So I like Andrew Wilson overall. He is a great debater, but I do think he's a bit fraudulent with some of his perspectives. I definitely think that he's playing a bit of a character, I guess you could say. He kind of makes like the manosphere, if you will, kind of look bad because he talks this big game about being a man, but I don't know. He doesn't really, I don't know, he chain smokes cigarettes. He's married to a woman who's had 3 different baby daddies. Not that I'm judging or anything, but it just kind of goes to show that some people don't necessarily practice what they preach, and if anything, they're just trying to give the internet a facade, if you will. But I do, like I said, I do like to listen to him every so often. I do like him on Piers Morgan. Don't really listen to the what's it called, the Whatever podcast. But I do like the Extravaganza Clips channel. I'm gonna put him in the B tier. He's all right. I don't happen to care for him too much, but he's also pretty solid. So, I don't want to put him in a bad ranking. So number 2, Andrew Tate. I have disliked Andrew Tate since day 1. I remember I was in high school when he first started to blow up, and honestly, I've never really gotten the hype. He says a lot of good things, accurate things, and I do think he has brought a lot of people to the right wing and has opened a lot of people's eyes open to feminism and a lot of the things that men face. He opened a lot of young men's eyes, but it's one thing to do that, but he would lead people down the wrong path, in my opinion. He's very hedonistic. He's Muslim. He you know, unfortunately, I think a lot of young men converted to Islam because of Andrew Tate, of all people. And I do think he's a womanizer. I'm not trying to sound like woke or whatever, but there is a central level of respect we need to give to women, and I do think that he takes a little too far, you know? But I do think that he does bring some value, like I said, and he also shilled a cryptocurrency. And one thing about me, that is one of the most unforgivable sins you can do as a public figure, or even a person in general, which is shilling a cryptocurrency. That is just pure scam behavior. If you're promoting anything besides Bitcoin, it could be out of ignorance, but more often times than not, it's out of malice because they're trying to scam their audience and they're getting paid because of it. I'm going to put him in the C tier. A lot of people might disagree with this ranking, but quite frankly, again, I'm just not a huge fan of him. I'm just not. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I think he's a net negative. Well, maybe that's a bit of a stretch. I think he's a mixed bag, but overall, he leads people down the wrong path. Identifies the correct problems. He brought a lot of people, made a lot of people aware of these problems. But again, the solutions he offers, outside of working out and getting money and bossing up, outside of that, like I said, he promotes hedonistic viewpoints. He's Muslim, womanizer. Can't get behind any of that. So, next, a lot of you guys probably don't know who this guy is. He's a very, very small YouTuber, but he is absolutely one of my favorite channels out there. I don't even agree with him on everything. He's a bit more authoritarian than me, and he's an accelerationist when it comes to politics. He wants to see basically the country to go down the toilet before it can get better. But he's super respectful. He engages with his audience. I love the content he creates, and he creates a lot of consistent content too. I feel like he's one of us, and I just really like his content. I'd love to, if this channel grows, I would love to collaborate with him, and he's a great guy, it seems like. So gotta put him in the S tier. That's my guy. His name's Atlas Thugged, by the way. Probably should have mentioned that. Go check out his channel. Great content. I really enjoy it. Definitely, I think he needs to stop idolizing Nick a little bit. I don't dislike Nick, spoiler alert. But yeah, no, I think he's a great content creator. Put him in the S tier. Next, we have Ben Shapiro. Listen, I have never liked Ben Shapiro. Even during his heydays when he was a big creator. Well, he's still big, but he was just, you couldn't go anywhere on the internet without seeing Ben Shapiro. You'd see his videos, destroyed 1,000 libtard, feminazis at the college campus. You watch him just cook these dumbass feminist women up, and it was so satisfying to watch. But even back then, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not trying to be like that one LeBron meme. He's like, yep, I knew since day one that there's something off about that guy. I just couldn't put my finger on it. But no, that's how I feel about him. I don't know, man. I just could never fully resonate with him. And I don't know. It was more of a vibe thing than anything. I just never trusted bro. Maybe it's the very staunch differences in our spiritual ideologies. And maybe I could just sense his nefarious intentions since day one. Yeah, I mean, he's a Zionist Israel shill. And, the past few years, man, his colors have really been showing. During COVID, he told everybody to go get the shot and to trust the science. He supports every war that benefits Israel. He's not even really that conservative, to be honest with you. Yeah, I really just don't like him. So, I think he's nefarious. I think he lacks charisma. I don't think he's funny. Again, I just don't think he brings much value. If anything, he's a net negative because he leads young men or whoever his target audience is down the wrong path of Zionist shillery. I think he's among the worst. I think he's a bad faith actor. No charisma. He makes the right wing look bad. I'm gonna have to put him in the D tier. Absolutely terrible. I cannot stand Ben Shapiro. bad faith actor. I could go on much longer about Ben Shapiro, but just for the video's sake, I don't want this video to go on forever. Next, we have Carl Benjamin. I didn't find Carl Benjamin until the past year or two. I actually found them via the Lotus Eaters. I was not familiar with Sargon of Akkad, which is his main YouTube channel. Listen, I like him a lot. I think he has a lot of great perspectives on things. Just wish that he was a Christian. You know, he's an atheist. He doesn't bash Christianity, but I would like to see him promote more Christian values. And my biggest criticism of him, I think he's a bit pedantic, and you're going to notice a common trend. That is one of my criticisms for a lot of people. In case you couldn't tell with the small amount of content I have created, I'm a very to-the-point guy. I don't like people who get hung up and just keep talking and talking and talking about the same details. I think he's a bit pedantic, but overall, I do like his nativist sentiment, and I think he's a great voice for the UK. And the Lotus Eaters is amazing. I enjoy the Lotus Eaters very thoroughly. I think it's great content. They have good perspectives on things, and I think he's got a really good thing going on. I don't know. I had to unsubscribe from the Sargon of Akkad because, again, he's a bit long-winded, and he sometimes I feel like if you watched one of his videos, not gonna lie, you've probably seen a lot of them, because a lot of them are very similar. Again, there's probably a little bit more I could add to that, but that's pretty much the gist of it. So I'm gonna put him in the A tier. Again, great content. Like him a lot. I would check him out, the Lotus Eaters, if you haven't. Next, we have John Doyle. So, I've actually been subscribed to this guy for a long time. I forgot about him for a few years there, because I guess the YouTube algo didn't promote him in my feed. But I used to watch him a lot. The heck off commie. Gosh, it's so cringe thinking about it in hindsight. But, got the heck off commie show. He's always been like a Trump loyalist, and that always kind of didn't settle right with me. I thought he was very articulate, and I agreed with a lot of his perspectives. I think, if I am correct, I haven't watched his content in a while, I think he's a libertarian sort of guy, kind of like me. Very much Christian. In case y'all didn't know, he recently signed a deal with The Blaze, and now it's the John Doyle Show. And boy, oh boy, what a fall from grace. This guy he's sold out. I mean, there's just no other way to put it. He is a sellout, and it's very disappointing because I felt like he was about to turn based, and he's still a bit of a smaller content creator, but he sold out and took that Blaze money, that Glenn Beck Zionist deep state money. Because in case you guys didn't know, the Blaze runs they don't have enough revenue to cover the expenses. They operate at a loss, so you might be wondering, where do they get this money from? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. Definitely some Zionist shield donors. On his show, he replaced his Jesus figurine or photo, I don't remember what it was, with a picture of Donald Trump. Like, this guy, he's just such a Trump shill. He reminds me of me when I was in 2016. But he's a grown man, and it's 2026, so at one point I probably would have put him in the B tier, but this is a nefarious sellout actor. I cannot in good faith put him in anything above a D. This guy is just, he's a sellout. I can't get behind him. So next we've got Myron Gaines. Listen, this is a saying you might hear me use a lot with things. I feel like Myron Gaines is a joke that has gone too far. I don't know why people take this guy seriously. I mean, this is the guy from the Fresh and Fit podcast, man. Man. Yeah, need I say more? I mean, that is one of the worst podcasts ever. And it's not even because I think they're sexist or whatever. I just think these guys, it's weird because I think Myron Gaines is actually a pretty smart guy, but I think this character he puts on, which, by the way, I'm not a huge fan of that. I don't like it when people are putting on a clear character. I don't like that. I'd rather you be authentic and be yourself and espouse the beliefs that you actually have. Yeah, not a huge fan of that. And he's also a Muslim, I believe. But he's way less intense about Islam than someone like Andrew Tate or Sneeko. But, I'd prefer someone in the right wing space to be a more Christian oriented person. So by default, you're not going to be an S tier with that. He's very hedonistic. You can tell he gets a lot of his flow from Andrew Tate, and he's a legitimate womanizer. Listen, I'm not like a happy wife, happy life to the fullest extent kind of guy. I think that there's a lot of criticisms of modern day women, but this guy just takes it a little too far. I think he's genuinely, I don't think he actually, and the funny thing is, I don't think he actually hates women. I think it's all like a part of his shtick, I'm just not a huge fan of that. Again, he puts on a character. I'm not a huge fan of that, so. But he's not completely bad. He's got some good takes on like Israel and I think capitalism and other things. So I just really wish the right wing space would really just not take him as seriously as they do, especially in the dissident right wing space. They give this guy a lot more clout and seriousness than he deserves. So I'm gonna put him right near his buddy Andrew Tate in the C tier. Next we got Michael Knowles. Listen, I never really watched him. In fact, one of the only videos I've actually ever voluntarily watched that wasn't like in my feed, because YouTube promoted it, was a video on how to smoke a cigar, because I didn't smoke a cigar before, and he had a video about how to smoke a cigar, and that was a pretty epic video, not gonna lie. He's got some good takes on things, but if you're working for the Daily Wire, I mean, by default, you're very limited to how based you can be, you know what I mean? So, and he's also a Catholic, and, I have nothing against Catholics, but I think Catholicism is, I'm not a huge fan of Catholicism. I'm a Protestant guy. I think Michael Knowles, I think he lacks a bit of charisma. I don't know anybody my age who is like, oh yes, like turn on that Michael Knowles, or oh, did you hear what Michael Knowles said recently? There's not much more I can say about him. I don't really consume a lot of his content. He works for the Daily Wire, so again, not a huge fan of that. So gonna put him in the C tier as well, because I don't want to put him in the D tier because I don't think he is malicious. And I don't think he's as much of a sellout as John Doyle, and I don't think he is as much of a Zionist shill as Ben Shapiro, but, maybe if he left the Daily Wire and had his own show, maybe he'd be a bit more based, and I could put him in the B or A tier, but until that day comes, he's no higher than a C tier. Next, we've got Nick Fuentes. I might get a lot of flack for this, but I am not the world's biggest Nick Fuentes fan. I think, much like Andrew Tate, I think he's exposed a lot of young men to a lot of uncomfortable truths that society won't allow you to hear from a lot of the more mainstream voices. And I do appreciate him for that. I do think he's very articulate. I can really appreciate how zippy and quick he is when it comes to facts and history, and his debate skills are pretty good. Very intelligent guy. Gotta give him credit where it's due. I think he's hilarious, because I do watch Nick Fuentes a lot. Because I do like to hear what his perspective is on things, and he's also hilarious. He just makes me laugh a lot. But I will admit, a lot of it is hate watching. He's a bit more authoritarian than what I can tolerate. And I just, whenever I think of Nick Fuentes, I just can't shake the clip of him saying that Protestants aren't saved and Protestants are going to hell. That is just crazy to me. I think that is one of his worst takes ever, which is crazy because people will be like, what? Oh, don't you think his takes on the Jews or Nazi Germany or Stalin is the worst? No, his worst take is easily promotion of Catholicism, his hatred of Protestantism. This is a Protestant country, and it's funny because he's a nativist sort of guy, and he thinks that, oh, if you come to this country, you need to assimilate, which, by the way, I agree. But it's just funny because he's a Catholic, And the reason why Catholicism even has a root in this country is because a bunch of immigrants came here from, Europe, Latin America, and have brought Catholicism. And that's the only reason why it's here. So that's the grand irony of it all. This is a country that was founded on Protestantism, which he hates. So just think that's very ironic and hypocritical that he has such a hatred of Protestantism. And obviously he hates libertarianism, which, listen, I have a lot in common with some of the more auth-right bros and like the Groypers, but it's hard to reconcile with them and, try to be on the same team, if you will, with them when they bash libertarianism and Protestantism. Like, bro, this country was founded on both of those principles. And one of the reasons why the country was so great for such a long time was because of those principles. So the fact that you bash it is just crazy. I know he's a very provocative guy and whatnot, but yeah, I can't get behind that. But overall, I agree with him on like 50-60% of the time. So I'm gonna have to put him in the B tier. No, I'm gonna put him in the A tier. On any given week, he literally could fluctuate between the C and A tier, but maybe just because this Iranian war that's been happening recently, and he's been pretty spot on with his predictions and his analysis of it all. Right now, I have him in the A tier, but like I said, on any given week, I could have him as low as the C tier. Because sometimes, I'm just be honest with you, he has bad takes sometimes. And he's 27-year-old man, and he could be a bit edgy and provocative when there's just no need for that. It's like, dude, you're about to be touching your 30s soon. There's no need for all that. Again, I could go on much, much longer about Nick, but I don't want this video to drag on for too long. So next we have Milo Yiannopolous. Not gonna lie, back in the 2016, feminist at college gets roasted video compilation era, I did watch a lot of Milo. I did enjoy his content. I thought he was very sharp, and I always thought, like, dang, this guy really knows what he's talking about. But as I've gotten older, I don't know. I mean, he is a very questionable character. I mean, he was a overtly flamboyant gay guy who was married to a black man for the longest time, and he claimed to be like this Christian or Catholic conservative. So I always thought that was hypocritical. And I'm not like someone who like hates gay people, but it's like, how can you claim to be a Catholic right-winger when you're living your life in pure sin on a daily, secondly basis? I mean, I'm not holier than thou. I mean, we all sin. We're all not perfect, but I don't know. Like, it's hard for me to get behind Milo's lifestyle choices. And now he seems to be this master manipulator, has dossiers on countless influential people. Sometimes he actually does. Sometimes he's just lying. Yeah, I just think he lacks charisma. And any interview I watched with him in the past year or so, he's very incoherent. I feel like he's like either on drugs or like still in the process of like getting his mind right after being off of the drugs. And he always is interrupting people in interviews that he does. I don't remember him ever being like that. I don't know what happened to him. I think he went through like electroshock therapy. Maybe his brain isn't working at full capacity anymore. I don't know. But I'm not a huge fan of Milo Yiannopolous, needless to say. I don't know anybody who is. I think he fell out of a lot of people's good graces. So, but I don't want to put him in the D tier because, well, I'm going to put him in the D tier because I don't think he's a good faith actor. I think he's a hypocrite with a lot of things. Doesn't have a lot of charisma. And I don't really know what he brings to the table a lot of times. Next, we have the late Charlie Kirk. Rest in peace. May God rest his soul. So, I don't mean to talk ill of the dead, but I always wasn't a huge fan of Charlie Kirk. I've always viewed him as one of those milquetoast establishment Republicans who is in favor of keeping the status quo because that's what keeps his donors happy. I will say, it really did seem like near the end of his life, he was becoming a bit more based. He was opposing the Iran war, and he was bringing people like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, to Turning Point USA events, and Dave Smith too, who was anti-war. And that was very promising to see. When all these people were speaking at these events, I was very shocked. And it really did seem like Charlie was on a redemption arc, if you will, and he was becoming more based. But unfortunately, we won't know because he was assassinated in broad public, and leftists cheered and thought this guy was like a fascist and like a far right. It's like, dude, no, he is a very moderate milquetoast guy. He was very much a good Christian man, a very big family man, and he furthered Protestant Christian principles, and I did appreciate that. I have no doubt that he was truly a Christian at heart, and he truly put Jesus in the forefront of a lot of what he did. I have no doubt about that. And I pray that he truly was getting close with God and had accepted Jesus as Lord and Savior and was truly living and walking the Christian walk, because I'd like to think that he's in heaven. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you guys. Wasn't a huge fan of him, and sometimes I questioned his motives. It's like, do you really believe this, Charlie, or are you just saying this because your company relies on donations from these big donors? And he was so pro-Israel. It's hard for me to accept you and take you seriously as a commentator when you're bending over backwards for Israel. Yeah, like I said, I just can't get behind that. And he's promoted the multiculturalism, blank slateism, which to this day I myself don't have like the world's strongest stance on all that, but I think he was a bit too colorblind for even my own liking. And I'm not even like an extremist when it comes to that sort of thing, but I think I'd have to put Charlie in the B tier. If he didn't have that arc where he was becoming more based and starting to become more anti-war and trying to bring more libertarian, dissident, right-wing, anti-war people into the mix, I think I'd have him in like the D tier. But like I said, it really did seem like he was changing for the better, and it's very tragic that he passed away. It's like, man, why couldn't Laura Loomer be the one? Nah, let me stop. But nah, man, yeah, rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. Put him in the B tier. Next, we have my man Jason Whitlock. I used to watch his show like every day. I still tap into his stuff every so often. My biggest criticism is, listen, I don't think he's an Uncle Tom, but I do think that in order to be provocative and to get the people going, he does. How do I put this? I think he's a victim of audience capture. I listened to Marcellus Wiley on YouTube, but if you haven't watched him before, go check him out. He does a lot of sports analysis breakdown, and he always brings up the fact that when he was on set at FS1, because in case you didn't know, Jason Whitlock, his background is actually from sports commentary. He was on Fox Sports as an analyst. I think he might have worked for ESPN too, and he really got his start from being a sports columnist. Marcellus Wiley always says, like, when Jason Whitlock was on set, he would always make sure it was all black, crew, and that it was all black cast for the show, which was it First Things First? No, I'd forget what show he had on FS1, but you wouldn't know that because he's always like, I don't know. Again, I think he knows what his audience wants, was just to like go after certain types of people. Again, I don't think he's Uncle Tom, but I do think that he's putting on a bit of a character. I don't think he's 100% forthright with his whole heart of hearts personal beliefs. But he has a biblical worldview, and he's a Protestant Christian, and I really do appreciate that about him. I have no doubt in my mind that he is actually a Christian. It's not just a show. He talks about it every day, He always talks about his biblical worldview. That's actually where I got the term from. I'm 100% sure he's not the one who came up with that term, but he's the first one who I've heard it, say it, and use it. Yeah, I like Jason Whitlock a lot. I think he's very articulate. I think he can be a bit long-winded with some of his monologues and commentary on things, which, again, anybody who knows me knows I do not enjoy long-winded, pedantic sort of commentary. Like people who are straight to the point, that don't just go in circles talking about the same thing. He can kind of do that. That's a bit of a nitpick sort of thing. Overall, I like him. I think that he's got the right stances. He's not someone who bends over to the Zionist Israel first crowd. He is unfortunately employed by Blaze TV, and it's hard for me to overlook that, but I'm hoping that once his contract is up or whatever, that he will become independent or work for a better employer, because Blaze TV is just not it. Glenn Beck sucks, and that guy, oh gosh, that guy is just not a good dude, and he has twisted motives, bad faith actor. But yeah, I'll put him in the A tier. I like Jason Whitlock a lot. You guys should check out Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I enjoy his cast of characters that he has. He has the Korean Cosell. Gosh, why am I blanking on his name right now? His Asian co-host. Matt Kim, I think his name is. Love that guy. He's so funny. And I really enjoy his breakdown of sports and even politics. And he has Scap Attack, my man Jay Skapanak, breaking down basketball and things of that nature. And he brings a lot of solid guests. So yeah, I love Jason Whitlock. So next we have Matt Walsh. And honestly, the way that I feel about Charlie Kirk can honestly be really given to Matt Walsh. And they even have the same sort of political journey. Again, Matt Walsh is very limited to what stances he can publicly espouse while he's being employed by the Daily Wire. So I understand, you can't talk about this or that, but it's like, dude, you're a grown man. You're someone who fancies yourself as a strong man who stands by his principles. And I know, and I just suspect deep down, he is not a huge fan of this whole Israel thing and all of the stuff that they are doing. And I can tell that he wants to talk about it, and he wants to really tell the world what he truly believes. Israel is a net negative on this world, and actually that's putting it politely. They're an evil force in this world that is destroying our country and destroying tons of other countries. He has the cheap excuse, I don't believe in giving money to Israel, but guess what? I don't believe in giving money to any country, which is like true, but that's a cheap cop-out for saying that, you don't support Israel. So, yeah, I think he needs to leave the Daily Wire, be a man with conviction and balls, and stop being such a pussy. I always think about that clip of Nick Fuentes saying, "Get back to work, Matt Walsh."
Get back to work, Matt Walsh. Get back to work. Do not criticize Israel. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Ben Shapiro.
Like, I always just think about that because you can tell, like I said, that Daily Wire has got him in a chokehold, and he can't truly espouse the beliefs that he believes in. So there's always going to be a respect minus for that. Also, he focuses on a lot of the stupid culture war stuff, which, listen, there is a place for that. And I'm not a huge fan of woke ideology and identity politics and stuff of that nature. But you can't just focus on that all the time. There's real stuff going on in this world. Foreign policy, economics, blatant corruption that's part of this Trump administration. You hardly hear him talk about any of these things because he's a very milquetoast Republican establishment guy. I don't got a lot of respect for people like that. Again, he has some good takes here and there, but I don't know. He's just a bit of a boomer at heart, and for every good take I hear him say, for every 2 good takes I hear him say, he's got at least one bad one that I'm just like, ugh. I'm gonna put him in the C tier. I think he has the potential to make it to the B or A tier, but much like Michael Knowles, he needs to leave the Daily Wire, and the corruption and Zionist buffoonery that Ben Shapiro promotes and has at his company. Thank you guys so much for watching part 1 of this tier list. I will be uploading the part 2 in a separate video just because I didn't want this one running for, more than an hour. So stay tuned for part 2. It will be coming very soon.